Hey, what's going on? This message is for you, the pre-Chiro student. This is the pre-Chiro podcast. We're aiming to contextualize the path of what it looks like to become a chiropractor. And today I have a chiropractic student, Zach, on the call with me. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're busy as a chiropractic student. Can we just get right into it and you share a little bit about your background before chiropractic school, what you were up to?
Yeah, of course. First off, thank you for having me on. It's a real privilege and an honor. But yeah, a little bit about me, where I started from. I did my 4 years of undergrad at Salisbury University, D3 school. I played 2 years of football there. Was super into lifting weights, getting stronger, all the like strength and conditioning stuff, which is what I thought I wanted to do at first.
Mhm.
Um, so when I started, I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. I was in the exercise science program. I knew nothing about chiropractic. I'd never seen a chiropractor. I'd done some physical therapy, but until I didn't know what a chiropractor was until I really messed up my back my sophomore year. I couldn't tie my shoes. I couldn't do like regular things that a 19-year-old should be able to do, let alone probably even like 65-year-olds. So I went through our athletic trainer. I went through physical therapy, none of which were working, none of which actually looked at my back. It was all like loosen up your hamstrings, this, that. And then I finally, when I got home for the summer, I was still having these back issues. I was taking like 8 Advil, 2 sleeping pills just to sleep at night. Like it was insane. Um, but I finally went to go see a orthopedic surgeon, and they did some MRIs. MRIs came back negative. He's like, "Oh, you just have a pinched nerve. What we can do is give you this bottle of Vicodin, and then you can go schedule with our chiropractor down the hall." And I was like, "Okay, I don't really want to take Vicodin. Like, it's
Right,
not the path I want to go down."
right.
So I signed up with the chiropractor, um, and instantly within 2 weeks, this pain that I've been going through for the last 5 months was gone. Just like whole new life, whole new outlook, all based off of some. I mean, he did ART, so he was doing some pin and stretch, as well as he was adjusting my back as well. So that got me hooked on chiropractic care, and then finally in school, a chiropractor came in and talked to our class and was like, "This is what we do. This is how you get into school. This and that." And I was like, "Hmm, like I'd be really interested in doing that." Looked
Mhm.
up some schools, found Parker, went, I think, 3 months later down on a visit, fell in love with Dallas, fell in love with Parker, and it's been Parker ever since. So that's how I got here. That's kinda a brief intro into to how I got here.
Yeah, no doubt. And I keep seeing this recurring theme of college athletes who had an injury, who were helped by a chiropractor when other
Mhm.
people told them one story. They went to a chiropractor who was like hearing where they were coming from, but also just knowing that, okay, I'm going to offer you something completely different from what these other professionals were offering. So can you speak a little bit about what that sort of pre-Chiro experience was like for you once you knew you were going to become a chiropractor and you knew you were going to go to Parker? What did you start to do to prepare yourself? Did you just kind of have a good time knowing you were about to go into graduate school and just
Mhm.
relax? Or did you tend to like focus on certain things that would prepare you for when you got there?
Yeah. First thing that I thought of was when I went on my visit, when I went through my orientation at Parker, they gave me a sheet of like all the classes you'll be in through your 7 trimesters. Um, and I hung that up because it was like, as you know, like chiropractic school, you're in 25, 28 credits a trimester, which in undergrad, you're in what, 12, 14.
Yep.
And these classes were pretty big name stuff. Like I was like, dang, I see how we do. Um, but the biggest thing I did was my last semester is I got an internship with a chiropractor close to my school, and
Mm-hmm.
that shifted everything. He was a very principled chiropractor. You know, he was only adjusting the spine. He was only looking at that, and I was his exercise therapist. So I would get upset because I'd be like, these people need to exercise. They need to come. Like we need to get these people uh, like moving the right way. He's like, no, we're just gonna adjust them, and everything will take care of itself. I was like, this guy's crazy, man. Like I didn't know the philosophy of chiropractic, but he was just dropping in little pieces like that. So my biggest piece of advice, if you're in school right now, would just find a chiropractor that's willing to take you under his wing for 3 to 4 months while you're still in school.
Yeah, yeah. I had something similar to that. I worked for a chiropractor for like 6 months before I went to chiropractic school. And it really helped just prepare me for what just my orientation to chiropractic and what they're saying to people and how they work with people, the amount of time they spend with people. And now here I am today, like 7 years into practice. I've got a completely different perspective now than I had then, but I find it very valuable, and I think that that's great advice for somebody. Can you talk a little bit about that transition once you got into chiropractic school? What were some things that you were surprised by that you want to share with people just so that they're aware of it? And also just like, what did you gravitate towards? What have you been doing with yourself since you got into school?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I first got into school, I was super dedicated to just trying to ace all my classes, like trying to get a 4.0. That was just something I came in wanting to do. And then I slowly realized via mentors or students ahead of me that kind of took me under their wing, that, school was there to make sure I passed boards. There's another curriculum in school, which is the seminars, the clubs, the people you hang out with, the speakers, all the philosophy. So as I was going through this process, it took me until I think my second or third trimester, until I found this club where it was just Adjust Club. That was the name of it. Like, just straight adjust. We learned how to adjust. And the people that were in that club really took me under their wing. It kind of showed me the way in which chiropractic school, to me, is, I think, how it's supposed to be done, which was attending seminars on the weekends, listening to talks, and embracing what it meant to be a chiropractor.
Yep. And nobody really has time for those weekend seminars. So that's why we're here trying to prepare people to get involved before chiropractic school so that you can start doing seminars as soon as possible. Really, there's not enough work you can do outside of the classroom to get ready. So can you talk about the importance of seminars just as a concept? And like, if we were breaking a ratio down, I would say that the average chiropractic student is like 90% class, 10% seminars, and how people like you have flipped that and been like 90% seminars, 10% class in regards to priority. Obviously, you're going to classes, you're doing what you do, but can you talk about the importance of those extracurricular outside of the classroom hours you're putting in?
Yeah, that's probably one of the most important things, I think, for a chiropractic student to learn, is there are other seminars and there are chiropractors out there coming into town, leaving their practices to come teach students what they've learned in practice, what they've done, like adjusting, business, communication. So yeah, I would say for me, when my first seminar ever, I was like, man, I'm gonna waste a Saturday and a Sunday. Like, how am I gonna catch up on studying? All my classmates are, getting ahead in work, and I'm gonna be behind. So there's a lot of anxiety with it, like going to the first couple, and then slowly, by dedicating myself to these seminars, I was more involved in class, and I was learning more in class than I would be at home. So I wouldn't have to spend 4 or 5 hours at home studying the material because I was focused in class, knowing I had this seminar coming up that I wasn't going to be able to study. And you nailed it right on the head. I would say I'm definitely 90% seminar and 10% class. I would say most of my chiropractic knowledge, if not all of it, has come from weekend seminars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what most people will say, and I don't really like the statement, is C is for chiropractic. So you don't have to get great grades to become a great chiropractor. But the reality is, if you're going to take a class, you want to do as well as you can in it. It's just the priority is on chiropractic. And that's what they mean when they say C, that the B and the C students usually are spending more and more time outside of the classroom on things not related to that test that they're about to take, right? Mm-hmm. So can you talk a little bit about kind of what's available to a chiropractic student that they might not be aware of, and where even just playing around with it, how much energy they should put into business and focusing on entrepreneurship versus microbiology and infectious diseases, or how would you say that you're personally sort of approaching the curriculum today after having really gone through a lot of seminars, gotten exposed to a lot? How are you managing your time these days?
Yeah. So for me, what I do is most schools have, I know Parker's is kind of, it's not affiliated with Parker because most of the seminars are not affiliated with the school. And I think that's pretty similar at all schools. Yep. But the big thing was there's typically a Facebook page that just has all the seminars coming to Parker. People are posting the flyers, they're posting the price. They're typically the host, so you can get in contact with them. And so what I do, and I actually did this for Parker this past before the start of this trimester, was I actually compile a list of all the seminars coming that trimester. And I'm like, okay, I have this much money that I'm going to set aside. It's typically $1,000 of my student loans, and I'm like, this is going to go towards chiropractic. And I'm okay with putting that much money into these seminars because I know in 3-4 years that money's going to come right back. It's that kind of you get what you give, not what not what you. It's not necessarily what you can take out. So I'll compile a list and I'll find about 4 or 5 seminars. I'm like, okay, I want to do this one, this one, this one, and that one. Some of the best seminars I've done so far, if that's what you're alluding to, right?
Well, I'm more alluding to, I think you brought up an interesting point. Now, we're trying to keep it general for the students because not everybody has access to the same types of seminars that you have access to. So I like how you described your budget, and a student budget is already really tight, but it sounds like you've really identified that seminars have to be basically included in your overall budget for the semester. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. And I know, especially in Dallas, rent is really high for a lot of people. So my biggest piece of advice that I would give too is find 2 or 3 people, find a house for cheaper. I know we're in graduate school and all our friends are living in these nice places because they have jobs, but you still have to keep that student mindset. You still have to ball on a budget, basically, right? So finding a place where rent is maybe not $1,000 a month. Finding a place that's maybe 600, 700 that's manageable, where now that money that you're saving is going into the seminars. And with that too, coming from, I came right from undergrad, this party mindset, the money I would be spending on the weekends, whether I was at a seminar or out partying, was basically came out to be the same. That's something I think people, especially students, at least early on, can't really grasp, just because it's $350 up front for a seminar sometimes. But then when you're out drinking or out partying, you're spending $10 on this drink, $10 on that drink, yada yada. But the big point is like, find what's true to you, make a commitment to it, and stick with it. And with those seminars, your chiropractic, the progression you go through in chiropractic school will just be insane.
Right on. Yeah, because you're spending time with people that already put in all that work themselves and are a couple of years down that path. I think that that's a really interesting point. In chiropractic, we talk when a new graduate is coming into practice, we tell them, keep your overhead low. Keep it simple and keep your overhead low. And what you're describing is that every chiropractic student needs to keep their overhead low. They need to have their bills as low as possible so that they can invest their money in the things, invest their energy in the things that matter. So that's really valuable advice. Is there anything else unique to that student experience today in 2020, being that it's become a little more virtual, that allows you to focus more maybe on your chiropractic training, or has anything changed for you as a chiropractic student, having a new set of schedule or a new way of taking your classes?
Yeah, I would say at first it definitely took a big hit. I'm a big morning ritual guy, as I'm sure you are and many of our mentors are. But at first, getting into this experience that we're going through, I got into a rut of, I'll just sleep in, I'll wake up and I'll sign into my class. I'll go pour a cup of coffee. If the class is at 8 a.m., I'll wake up at 7:50, pour that cup of coffee, just kind of sit there and kind of half-ass, for lack of better terms, take notes. And that lasted for a good month, I would say. And then I was like, oh no, like we got to get back to what we're doing. So I think finding that ritual and that routine for you that works the best, that's going to just light you up for the day, is what's really important, especially in these times during these virtual classes where you're just kind of sitting there, maybe taking notes, maybe not, like zoning out, like finding a way to keep yourself engaged. Like I'll hit some squats, I'll do some push-ups like in between classes, I'll go for a walk outside. A big thing is getting outside, getting that vitamin D. But just finding ways to focus, to stay focused. And then with that, finding time to listen to podcasts or, read a book here and there to really keep your mind engaged. Because I think for a lot of students that I've talked to, they've just lost the fire. They've lost that will to learn more about chiropractic or learn more about themselves. So finding some books to read to really keep you engaged.
Right on. Yeah, every student is creating their own experience and creating their own reality of what it's like to be a chiropractic student, what their mindset is so crucial. Can you talk a little bit about some of the things that you've been focusing your mind on, podcasts you're reading, books you're reading, different things that you're doing on a regular basis, kind of like your student habits or?
Yeah. So I guess we can start with the podcast. I look forward to listening to many more of these, once it gets rolling. But podcasts that I really enjoy, Lewis Howes' School of Greatness. It's not chiropractic, but he has on some great guests that just kind of speak the same philosophies that chiropractors do, and as well as a lot of entrepreneurs. So learning how to run a business via that podcast. Another one I really like is Dr. Christina Stitcher and Dr. Skip Weiss, called Prime Pediatric Podcast, which is a chiropractic-driven podcast, and they just bring the heat every week. It's some of the best material you can hear. And then another podcast I'll go to every once in a while, it's no longer being recorded, but The Artful Chiropractor, which was a Kairos training culture podcast where they would have on just some legendary chiropractors interviewing, and you could just hear just how empowering that would be. So those would probably be the 3 podcasts I would recommend. And then in the comments at some point I could drop maybe a couple episodes that I would really focus in on. And then books. Recently I've gotten really into the green books, which the green books were written by BJ Palmer, the developer of chiropractic, as well as his father Didi, for those that may not be aware. And those you can find really anywhere on Amazon. Glory of Going On and the chiropractic textbook would be the 2 I would recommend the most. They have just everything that is what is chiropractic in them, as well as probably. I've read quite a few self-help books. Sorry, I just looked back to kind of get a glimpse. But the 3 biggest I would recommend to a student coming into chiropractic school: Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton is fantastic. Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Miss, about intuitive healing, and then probably. I would say Know Who the F You Are by Brett Jones, Dr. Brett Jones. If you want another chiropractic book, that one really takes you through a process of unlearning and then relearning exactly who you are meant to be.
That's dope. Sweet. Thank you. You being a college athlete, like playing football, and then you talking to me about studying books on being an intuitive healer and really being a little bit more connected to sort of the more gentle, subtle energy that exists within you. How would you speak to like a college football student, or I mean, not even a college football player, but just like any athlete who might be in a very rough sport or a very like kind of just a very physical type of way of life right now, like an orientation of life that's very physical? How would you talk about the more like spiritual side or the more gentle side of being, and can that be developed? And
Yeah, it certainly can be developed. I wasn't going through my days of football like meditating and talking about intuitive healing like you mentioned. It was all, how strong could I be? How powerful could I be? Kind of like this, I'm not going to say toxic masculine energy, but this very strong masculine energy. But as I mentioned before, when you go through chiropractic school, if you go through the way I've gone through and many of my mentors, and I'm sure you had to go through, there's this process of unlearning the habits that you've created. And sometimes these habits you didn't even create. They were just kind of ingrained in you through, epigenetics and the thoughts that our parents and their parents have had about the ways of health. But when I understood the bigness of chiropractic and that the power is truly within inside you to not only one heal you, like there's the classic example of when you cut your finger, yes, you bleed, but then it turns into a scar. But you can also do that with your mind. And if you take an idea of neuroplasticity of training your mind and your brain, you can learn to become gentle. You can learn how to, really put your hands on someone and really feel what they've been going through. And that's all through training. I look at it the same way I used to look at training for football. I'm going to meditate for, a certain amount of time. I'm just going to lay still for a certain amount of time. I'm going to take cold showers. I'm going to train chiropractic. There's strikes and there's ways to go about that. So training the physicality, but I look at it the same way where I'm doing this not for me. I'm not doing this training for me, just like I wasn't doing the training in football for me. I was doing it for the team in football. Now I'm doing this training for my future patients and those that are going to lay on my table.
Yeah. Yep. So where are you at in the program these days?
I'm in my 7th trimester. At Parker, there's 10 trimesters, so I'm in my last trimester of classes. Thank goodness. I'm not a class guy, but yeah.
Okay. You're about to transition into the clinic, or you've already started?
And yeah, so I'll shift into the student clinic come January, and I'll start seeing patients in January for a full year.
Okay. Right on. Well, this is the student mindset. This is where you're coming from. This is, recognize that your path is not the normal path, and that you may be talking to a student who's in high school or college or even in chiropractic school, but in a different part of the world or at a different school potentially that doesn't have as many seminars coming through and opportunities to learn from people in the real world, because what you're describing here is like very important for the student to know that it exists, and that you're setting a good example and being a good role model. And at the same time, we need to keep building on this and building infrastructure, because there needs to be like a common opportunity, I believe, among students that doesn't currently exist depending on which school you're in. So
yeah, and I think if I could speak to that too, I think I was listening to your interview with Eric Rubin. And he mentioned like he got to listen to Donnie, he got to listen to Sue Brown, he got to listen to Arno, all in like his first month of being at Life, which doesn't happen. That's just not a thing anymore, right? You don't get to just hear these chiropractic legends. But I think a big thing is finding clubs on campus that are right for you. I found clubs. I went to 2 or 3 clubs my first trimester, and not that they were bad clubs, but they weren't the clubs for me. So what did I do? Instead of stopping to go to clubs, I'm like, okay, let's try to find a club that works for me. And in that, I found mentors. I found students that were willing to go teach other students. They're willing to take time out of their lunch or out of their nights or mornings to go help other students. And then you create these friendships. And I think in chiropractic school, something I see a lot is we create this lone wolf mentality, where I'm just going to go out and I'm going to pass these tests. It's going to be me. It's going to be me. It's going to be me. And then at some point, you're just kind of lost. Seeing a lot of that right now too, especially in this experience we're going through with the virus. But finding those clubs and finding that community that's going to raise you up. They're going to ask you to probably start doing some things that may be uncomfortable for you, but also finding friends that are going to push you and pull you when you're in the middle of midterms and you don't want to keep doing school. Things are tough. There's not enough coffee in the world for you to stay up and study. And then you find these friends, these mentors, and they're like, hey, I did it. I went through this. If I can go through this, you can go through this. And I think there's clubs available at every school. Maybe not in person right now, but hopefully come January, we'll be able to meet in person.
Hold on one second, brother. Hold on. We're good. Yeah, no, that's great advice. I think that giving that reality that there is community in chiropractic school, that you're not on your own. You do have to go out and seek it in the clubs. It's not going to just be something that you're pushed towards. I mean, you might be pulled by somebody, but that's just because somebody cares. And here we are trying to pull you towards chiropractic school because we believe that it's one of the greatest professions on this planet. And we think that you will be really fulfilled with this path, that you're going to really love being a chiropractor because it's just something it's natural, it's in your hands, you're working with other people, you're connected, you're enjoying your life. It's not a sad, uptight, angry place. The environment that you get to spend your life in, which is your office, your clinic, your healing space, is just very uplifting and encouraging. And it's not something that exists in very many parts of the world these days. So we believe that if you sign up for chiropractic school, that you have the opportunity and the ability to shine, but you need some support. And that's what we're here to provide you with. We're just giving you some ideas. This is just our perspective. Develop your own perspective. But anyway, thank you so much for sharing these insights. And then, we're here. We're available for you. I'm sure as a student, you're already supporting and mentoring other students as they come into school. You kind of meet them where they're at and just say, okay, I know that you're just getting started, but let me just introduce you to what's available to you. These are all the seminars that are available. And so thank you for doing that. I think that you see that there's a real need for just more organization from the schools to connect the students at the different schools. And so you're at Parker, we're having conversations with students at all different schools around the world, not just here in the United States. And our hope is that we can show that chiropractic exists worldwide, and that no matter where you are in the world, that there's like a place for you. So do you want to share any last thoughts on what your clinical experience intention is going to be, and what you plan to go do, maybe some possibilities that you're floating around in your head right out of school?
Yeah, probably the thing that's been keeping me up the most at night, right, is that the future of where I'm going to be and where I'm going to serve. But in clinic, I think a big piece that I intend to hold is the true value of chiropractic. From my mentors, clinic can kind of distort you in this kind of lousy model of chiropractic. At least at Parker, I think it takes a good 45 minutes to go through one patient. Which isn't exactly the worst thing, but at the same time, that's not really how I intend to serve patients. I see a vision of an open bay style adjusting, most likely 2 or 3 tables to start, seeing patients at the same time, creating that community that I've been talking about in my own clinic, and allowing them to feel the pain that someone may be going next to them. And if they're further along in the process, then they can also help and give them some signs of like, hey, I did this, or I know what you're going through, because that's when we're in pain, that's something we don't really realize is, there's other people that have gone through this. And when you have that support, whether it's in the beginning or at the end, is really important to me, I think. So creating that environment in my future clinic, but also being super supportive for those that walk into the Parker Clinic with me. It's not going to be me doing anything to them. It's always a dance, which is to me the most beautiful thing about chiropractic is it's us doing it together. It's projects that we have to work on together. I think from that Artful podcast, I heard Dr. Autumn Gore, who actually practices here in Dallas, said this is when I think I felt the flip inside me, chiropractic wise, was she tells her patients, and I'm going to steal it from her, and feel free to if you'd like to as well. But, she tells her patients, I'm not going to fix what's wrong with you. I'm going to turn on what's right. And to me, that's the intention I plan on holding when I step into that clinic, is I'm not here to fix your issues. Not that there's anything wrong with the fixed mindset, but to me, that's not what chiropractic is. I'm here to facilitate you throughout your healing process and guide you. Not that I have the answers, but chiropractic has a way of opening that up and releasing that potential inside you. So that's my intention for clinic, and hopefully can serve the Dallas community in the best of my ability.
Sweet, sweet. If you're in Dallas, check this brother out right here. He's
Appreciate
there. I'll just parallel the graduate school in healthcare, whether you go the medical route or whether you go the chiropractic route. It's thought of more like an event. Like you go to the admissions team and you apply and you get in, and then you're in, and then you just take it as it comes. I think what you're describing, that your intention for the people that you work with in the future, is you're trying to impart that this is more of a process, that you were dealing with something before you met me that you're going to be dealing with we don't know each other anymore. But while we're working together, I'm going to support you through that process. I'm not going to do it for you. You're doing it on your own. And I believe that as a pre-Chiro student, I'm trying to involve them in this experience of what it's like to become a chiropractic student. And that's going to help them become more sort of confident in their abilities, that they're not counting on us to do it for them, that they go out and they put the work in themselves, or that, as a student, your focus is on yourself. It's not on what you or what my guest today or me have done with ourselves, right? This is our path. We're just trying to share it to get you focused on your path, because ultimately that's all that this is really about, is to let you know that we all walk a different path in life. But if you're going to become a chiropractor, your path needs to really start with you and end with you, because well, as always, as chiropractors, we find ourselves in our space taking care of people, and it's just us and them. It's not our teachers, it's not our mentors, it's us. So anyway, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you. And yes, keep it rocking over there in Texas. We're gonna look out for you.
Thank you. Really appreciate the opportunity. And if any students are listening and would like to reach out, feel free to do so. Zach Thompson on Facebook or Z Thompson 55 on Instagram. I would love to hear your story and kind of start helping you. If chiropractic is right for you, which I firmly believe it is, if you're thinking about it, I'd love to kind of work you through that process. So feel free to reach out.